We're at Spreyton this morning. It's on the Mersey River south of Devonport. I've just discovered a new riverside walk, so we'll hit the decks and start walking. Well, this is the start of the walk, nothing spectacular on that. Like a lot of these things, it's a shared pathway, so we'll keep our eye out for push bike cyclists. And as ever with councils, there's large lumps of basalt about to mark borders. It's extraordinarily heavy stuff and difficult to move. Here we are on the white brick road. Just turned 9 o'clock in the morning, about 10-11 degrees Celsius. Bit of a wind chill though, so it'll be interesting when we get into the shadows. Up ahead are the shadows. Quite pleasant, not too many people about. And the river's on the other side of the trees. Off to our left we have the gymnasium centre, and then we swing around to training ovals. I've got the post set up for the AFL, but it's also the cricket ground, so multi-purpose use there. And on the other side you've got some fairly thick scrub. We'll see there's a pathway through there to the water. It is early in the day, but we still keep our ears and eyes out for snakes and spare golf balls. The scrub there, so we'll keep back onto the path and see where this leads us. Quite an interesting old tree, this one. Quite a heavy branch horizontally coming out, but it's been well and truly trimmed on the ends here. It has that classic eucalypt widowmaker feel about it. And from the other side you can see the branches that have fallen, which would do a lot of damage if they landed on your noggin. Over in the distance behind the football field is another cricket oval. And in the foreground we have what looks to be a BMX track for training purposes, I would imagine. It's not overly large. A bit clearer here in the scrub off to the side, and down the bottom there we can see a waterway. We have a jogger off to the left going around the oval, but we'll go down along the coast, I think. We'll go down along the riverbank. No, we won't, because that bridge leads to a different walk heading back south. We'll look at that on another day. We'll carry on along here. To our left we can see the cricket nets, which is part of the training process for cricket. I can confirm it's a little bit fresh in the shade. To a way station marker, let's have a look. You can see the pathway there with the dots. We're at the first dot. You can see just below it was where that bridge turned off. So we'll keep going along the marked path. Those areas of lime green with the dots on them are where there were historically orchards. A lot of it's now just down to suburbia. Apparently we're about to start. This might be a little extreme. Just in case you weren't sure. So 30 metres. 30 metres is about the length, perhaps a little bit longer, of each side of the diamond on a baseball field. You can see the water down there. That flows off into the Mersey, I believe. I don't think it is the Mersey. Well, I'm sure it isn't. Some interesting mudflats there. Probably quite tidal. You can see the boundary mark there for the cricket oval. Don't know if you can pick it up, but there's another line about 20-30 metres in from that. And they are the markings for the one-day game. In normal proper cricket, you only worry about the boundary. And of course, an old favourite in this part of the world, Spreyton's not that far from Latrobe and Pig Island, where there's all the papery barks growing in the damp soil. They do make an impressive pattern on the eyes, rather pleasant. And this is what they look like in flower. I'll just put the hand in, give you some idea of scale. So they're not overly large. But quite an impressive gallery of them today. Pleasant grassy areas on either side. There's your cricket oval over there on the left. Not a lot of seating I've noticed, but it is definitely flat and wheelchair accessible. Just come up a little bit of a rise and we're dropping back down again, following the contours of the land. We'll get a look at the mudflats in a minute from a better position. Quite a vast little area of mudflats. There's a bird down there, a little fella not moving much, collecting crustaceans and whatnot, I would imagine. Be quite brackish, if not completely saltwater. Coming up on another way station marker. We'll give you another shot back over the mudflats when we get there. Quite an important ecosystem, the mudflats. They filter things and collect nutrients, and a bit of a carbon sink as well. A little bit of a rundown on the species that you find here. Tasmanian azure kingfisher, as pictured above. Quite an impressive little bird. Of course, the swift parrot, the wedge-tailed eagle. Now that's a real eagle. Central North burrowing crayfish. So I guess that's different from the others. Further south around Hobart. White-bellied sea eagles aren't that much smaller than wedgies. Apparently there's bandicoot around, the eastern barred bandicoot, but I haven't seen one of those or its scats. I suspect the eastern barred bandicoot's going to be about as easy to find as the platypus, but we live in hope, so we'll see. Starting to climb again. Through that gap there you can see what is in fact a golf course, which would explain why I picked up that golf ball on this side of the waterway. More broken and collapsing trees. Blackwood, it's a legume, so it's a pioneer species, doesn't last as long as your hardwoods. And I can confirm that it is getting very warm in the sun. Lots of bicyclists. That was in fact a tricyclist. That's fine. Movement is movement. And maybe one day when the legs is getting a bit weary, we might get one of those. Opening up into an interesting bend. And across the far side of, we have another way station, so we'll be there soon enough. Should also point out that along with the shortage of seats, there's no public facilities, so you'll need to have done your ablutions before you kick off and carry enough water. And this is where the little waterway we've been following flows out onto the mudflats of the Mersey by the looks of it. Quite a pleasant sight. And surprisingly, aroma free coming off the mudflats. That means they're probably being flushed a couple of times a day with the tides. I'll give that one a miss this time. you can see, we've moved about halfway along, maybe 2/5. This particular information board is about the setting up of the Spreyton school. The area was heavily timbered, hence the timber industry doing well here, but also the discovery of coal down at Latrobe meant that these mills could be powered. That was young Stephen Kelsey's first tidal mill. And an interesting collection of old pallets and timber waste. I don't know what is in there, possibly it might be the tip. Big stand of the papery barks over yonder. And knows the correct name for those plants. I'd really love to know. If you drop that in the comments, that'd be handy. Must be coming up to a fairly high traffic area. Oh no, this is where. And I'll be giving that a miss today too. It's a fairly steep start to the sprint, I must say. Which I guess is the point. It's an uphill sprint. Get people fit quickly. Riparian area, mudflats in the old term, once known as swamps, now known as wetland areas. Sounds so much sweeter. To be fair, they did need a renaming. They are huge carbon sinks, these areas, where land meets water. And I knew we couldn't get away without having at least one bridge. I think I was right. This does look like the municipal tip. Surprisingly, non-aromatic. Now, as I say that and cross the bridge, I suddenly got a whiff of something a little unpleasant. But it's a nice bridge with the see-through floor. Developed for sheep sheds, I believe, originally. Pleasant enough flowing space there, and on the other side out into the mudflats. 2 or 3 of those way stations to go, so getting close to the end of the walk. Heading back into the shaded area is quite nice. Just been passed by a couple of joggers and someone walking a dog. Same rule, we'll just wait. Although to be fair, she's actually walking 2 dogs, but I'll give them space. Some sort of machinery there. And cover. Might be an extension of the tip, who knows? We'll have a look when we get closer. It's starting to get just a little bit busy. I'm glad I started early. Perhaps I should have started an hour earlier. But anyway, it's turning out to be a nice day. About the 3rd in a row, I think, without rain. We're not due any for another couple. So we'll take the chance while we've got it. Quite a wide expanse there, and I don't know if you can pick up the glistening in the background there of the actual Mersey River. We'll get a better view as we get closer. We have ourselves another way station approaching. Okay, 3 more spots to stop at. This is where a lot of the orchards were, as you can see from the map there. The lime green with the dots. Bit of a shame when old apple orchards are taken down, I feel, but that's a personal thing. Path dives away a little bit as there's another inlet of the wetlands that we have to navigate around anyway. It does seem to be taking us way into town, but we're not actually. You'll see there's a little bit of a bend in the shadow just ahead. Now that is an old pine tree. You can see the thickness there. It'd be about 2 metres across, I reckon, or maybe 1.5 metres, but either way it's not inconsiderable tree, and you can see from the thickness of the side branches it's been around a while. They're nicely grassed. I guess you'd almost call it a meadow in some parts of the world. Just a bit of grass here. Coming back up again. Always a bit of a dip when you're going over a watercourse or getting close to it. And the cool of the shade. So it would appear that people only do certain sections of this. Those joggers turned around at the last way station and headed south. Off in the distance you can see our next way station. Just being passed by someone on a mobility scooter. Really quite sad that you've actually got to have signs up to tell people not to dump their crap everywhere. Taking us a little bit longer to get to than I expected when I first saw this way station. Quite an expansive view from here. Back down to our track. So 2 more to go. Where we are is an interesting spot. We'll show you on the other side of the panel. I'm not sure if our viewers from across the Pacific know what Ovaltine is. I suspect everyone else who'd been in the Commonwealth does. Like a Milo substitute, I guess. So the factory was set up during the Second World War to make up for the inability of the home factory to be able to do the job. It was quite an establishment. However, with all these things there is a cost. And off we go to our next marker. Spreyton, very much the industrial part of, well, one of the industrial parts of Devonport. Looks like a scrap metal place over yonder. Getting closer to the main river, the main channel of the river anyway. Not an unpleasant view. Hope you're picking up the bird song. Yep, as suspected. Smile, you're under 24-hour surveillance. It's the Tas Metal Recycle location. Definitely the main channel. Not unattractive at all, quite calming. Although I guess in a storm it could be a bit wild. And as we get closer to the main settlement of Devonport, we're getting a lot more residential buildings. Had a look this morning, high tide was around 5 o'clock over in Burnie, which is further west, so it would have been a little bit earlier here. And I think low tide's around 11 in Burnie, 11:30. So I must be getting close to it here, because it's just after 10 I believe. Not even 10 yet, so still got some way to go. And just when I was beginning to despair of finding the next one, our penultimate way station is upon us, which will have quite a view, which I'll show you in a tick. There she be. Quite impressive, quite relaxing. Just a calm, gentle breeze at the moment, very nice. And a nice tribute here to the oldest continuing culture on earth. Speaking of course of the First Nations people, at least 65,000 years. This one talks about 40,000, but the date keeps getting pushed back. A couple thing to consider really. There were no humans here when they arrived. Completely different landscapes from where they came from. There'd have been some continuities I guess, but enough differences, and yet people thrived for 65,000 years at least. Our last one, This goes to show. What an interesting sort of jutting out into the Mersey that we've walked along. And there we have the end of the Spreyton walk. Very pleasant, highly recommended, wheelchair safe.